Hey, what's up, community? It is Ryan Frank, and welcome to another episode of the KidzMatter Podcast. In 3 short weeks, we're all going to be together in Evansville, Indiana at the KidzMatter Conference, and I hope to see you and your team there. I love this event because it's like, all year long we stay connected on the podcast and in our Facebook community and all of these places online, digital, right? It's all digital, right? But when we get to the KidzMatter Conference time, we can all come together in one big room and 3,000 of us worship the Lord together and get training and encouragement. It's going to be so great to see you there. If you don't have your tickets yet, there is still time to get those tickets. Go to the KidzMatterConference.com, the KidzMatterConference.com. I promise you'll be glad that you came. Hey, today we are in for a treat. We're going to be talking with Brian Dembowczyk about 7 postures that you need to have in place as you come to the KidzMatter Conference. It's going to be a great discussion. But first, I want to thank the sponsor of this episode of the KidzMatter Podcast. It's brought to you by Planning Center, an all-in-one toolkit to help you organize and run your kids' ministry. We use Planning Center at our church. We use Planning Center to run the KidzMatter Conference. We love it. With an easy-to-use platform, a product, you can empower your staff and your volunteers to care for the kids and families of your church. And the good news, you can start for free. Go to planningcenter.com, planningcenter.com. Planning Center will also be at the KidzMatter Conference. They're one of our diamond partners. They would love to talk to you about how they can serve you and your church. Today, I'm going to bring to you an interview that I had just the other day with Brian Dembowczyk. Brian is the associate publisher at Thomas Nelson Bibles. He's going to be on the main stage at the KidzMatter Conference. And at the KidzMatter Conference, you can get your hands on his brand new book, Family Discipleship That Works. I know you're going to love this conversation. Friends, with no further ado, let's get this show on the road. Here's my conversation with Brian Dembowczyk. What's up, Brian? Welcome to the podcast.
Ryan, how you doing, man? We are getting set for the KidzMatter Conference. We're excited as participants. I imagine you guys are swamped.
We're swamped, but it's all good. Yeah, 20 days from today as we record this, and I know this podcast will go out today or tomorrow. So now I want to know, are you more excited about Kids Matter or Donuts Matter? Let's be real. Which are you most excited about?
They're one and the same. There can't be a Donuts Matter without a Kids Matter.
Well, that's true. If you aren't a part of our Facebook community, you need to go to Facebook and join I Love Kidmin. Yes. Brian started this whole discussion a week or two back about these donuts. Is anybody coming from Lexington, right? Or is it Louisville?
No, it's Lexington.
Yeah, Lexington.
Kentucky.
And it started this whole thing about all these donuts. And now Brian has managed to twist Jackie's arm, and she's, I think, taking the church van and going to load up a bunch of donuts and bring them to the conference.
No. She and her husband are flying into Nashville, which makes me feel worse because I'm in Nashville area.
Yep.
And they're coming in on Saturday, and then they're going to drive up to Lexington instead of going straight up to Evansville. And they're going to stay the night there and kind of do some touring, I guess.
Yeah.
And then get the donuts Sunday morning and head over to Evansville. So they volunteered to go out of their way.
That's amazing.
But Jackie said her husband has a sweet tooth. So
okay.
all I'm thinking is, man, these donuts better live up.
They better.
I'm setting them up.
You're next on the
line.
Because
if they go and they're like, these were like Dunkin' Donuts. What are you talking about, Brian?
Exactly.
I'm toast.
Well, the pictures look great. So
they are phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm excited to try them. If you are going to be at the KidzMatter Conference, you'll have an opportunity to connect with Brian. He's leading some breakouts. He's speaking on the main stage. Gosh, I feel like we've got you doing all kinds of stuff. You're recording a podcast during the week. Mopping the floor after everybody leaves. We have him doing everything.
That works. I'll mop.
Yeah, and you've got a new book that we'll talk about in a few minutes as well. So super excited about that. Actually, you'll be able to get it before anybody else at the conference because it doesn't release for a week or two after the conference, but the publisher's coming and they're bringing some of the books. So that's exciting. Brian, you are just such a gift to this community and a dear friend to Beth and I in this ministry. And you wrote a blog post for KidzMatter just in the last couple of weeks. and we shared it, and we've had such a great response to it. And I wanted to do a podcast around this. You talked about, hey, we're all gearing up for the KidzMatter Conference, and you're starting to think about what are you going to pack, what are you going to bring, and you're like, there are 7 things, and you could call them postures.
Yeah.
That you need to bring in addition to your toothbrush and your deodorant and your, a light jacket.
Please bring those things.
Yes, please, please. And these were such 7 good postures. They're kind of like when you read them, you're like, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. Of course you need to. Of course you need to. But when you see the list all together, like, boy, I think seeing them and hopefully hearing them today, or if you're watching, as you hear Brian unpack these, they're just a great reminder that you need to come with your heart and your attitude posture toward these things. So Brian, I want to talk about them together. First, you said you need to bring the posture of learner, right? Yeah. Talk to us about that.
Well, let me kind of zoom up first to kind of double click on what you just said, Ryan. I think, several of these, especially the first few, I think are kind of, like you said, they're kind of obvious. They're no-brainers. But I think it's really helpful. I think a couple of these may not be as obvious, but I think it's really helpful to be intentional and recognize that there are times that one of these postures may raise up and give itself more meaning. But if we're not intentional, I think some of these things can slip by us. And then we can look back and say, as I say in the article, man, we're going to have a great KidzMatter podcast or conference no matter what.
Yeah.
But in order to have the best possible, try to pursue these different ones. So this first one, learner, I think is the gimme of the gimmies. This is where this is one thing I love about kids ministers. We just love to learn. There's this humility about us and this recognition that we always have something to learn. And we come to the main sessions and we feast on ideas there in the Word of God. And then we go to all these great breakouts. So this posture of, when we come to a KidzMatter conference, we're ready to digest something, learn. Sometimes it's the loftier things. I kind of live there, Ryan, as you know. I like talking about the kind of the theology and those kind of things of kids ministry, but then as well the minutia of practical ideas of what can we do, these ideas, these tips. And so, man, I love that people can come and get both those things and all of those things, and leave better equipped to serve Christ and kids and families.
Brian, every year I don't know, I'm amazed that, we survey everybody at the conference, and you would think that like by and large, the biggest thing that people love the most maybe like this break or this main stage speaker, or this experience. But the number one thing that this community loves the most, they are the breakouts every year. I mean, they just love those breakouts. And we've had years in the past where we have brought in, we've kind of learned that, bringing big names to the main stage, is not really that big of a deal to this community. We've done that in the past, and then we'll bring those people. And I can give you examples, but I won't. And then we put them in a big breakout room thinking, oh, they're going to bring a big crowd. And they don't, because everybody wants to get that specialized training. And you have a great opportunity to do that at the conference. Second, you talk about the posture. And I love this one because this is, Brian, one of my favorite parts of the conference. The posture of worshiper.
Yeah.
Worshiper. Isn't that one of the coolest things I think about the conference? Is just being able to get together with so many other Kidmin leaders that a lot of you don't get to worship with other adults because you're back with the kids every Sunday, and we get to worship this risen Savior that we serve.
Yeah. And we know, just to be clear, worship is a way of life. It transcends singing and gathering like that, when we serve in kids ministry, when you're cleaning, that room up, mopping the floor after, something, that's worship. However, we're kind of talking about worship a little bit more proper here. Like we tend to think about it as that singing, that gathering together, hearing the word proclaimed and so forth, engaging on that level. And you're right, Ryan. I think this is one of the things we notice in the Facebook community. How often do we see posts where people are saying, hey, how do you guys get into worship, or how do you protect that time or whatever? And a lot of times I see, thankfully, kids ministry leaders who will reserve time. They will make it a priority. But even then, in our church context, my concern is a lot of times we can never just relax because we know we're always on duty at that. And how often do we start in worship, but we don't end in worship because we get pulled out for some emergency or
That's true.
whatever? So, I think this is an environment where everybody can say, I have no other responsibilities but to be here and sit in the presence of Christ and just worship. And I think that's a gift that this conference gives to all the participants.
I love that. Third, Brian, you talk about the posture of reviver. And I think this is one of those that may not be so obvious, but so many of us experience it when we take time to get away, come to an event like this, allow the Holy Spirit to work in our hearts and our lives. We get recharged, don't we?
Yeah.
We are reminded of the why behind what we do.
Yeah, and as we know, Ryan, I would say kids ministers are the hardest working people in ministry.
Yeah.
Yes, lead pastors do at discipleship and all. I served all these different roles except for worship. They work hard as well. I don't want to cast rocks at them, of course, but think about all the tasks that kids ministry leaders have to do.
Yeah.
Man, it's no wonder to see so many worn out. I saw on the Facebook community, somebody posted, I think it was last night, they're burned out.
Yeah.
They're tired, they're burned out, they're struggling to make sense of how can they kind of get revitalized.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people listening to some degree may not be to the point of I feel broken. Some are close, some are there, some are just tired and so forth. But this is one case where we can get away, and that alone can be reviving. I mean, I always encourage people, take your vacation times and so forth. That revives so much so, but because it's this environment, because of the culture that is there, because of just being with people who are like-minded, being able to be with people who understand and know, I just think there's something special about what God can do in somebody's mind, heart, and body to revive them. And I know, Ryan, that there are going to be people here who coming up in a couple of weeks who are hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
And this conference could be that life preserver, so to speak, that the Holy Spirit throws to them and keeps their heads above water.
Yeah. And that's what we're praying for. Yeah, I think you're right, Brian. So come anticipating that God is going to do a work in your spirit and in your life. And then this next one's fun. Number 5, the posture of equiper. This is another one of my favorite things about coming to a conference like KidzMatter is all the ideas and organizations that you can connect with. Talk to us about this.
Yes, I mean, I spent a lot of time, in my past life of being on staff with Lifeway and now even at Thomas Nelson Bibles, we spent a lot of time in the exhibitor space and so I'm biased there because I've spent so much time and I'll be there as well in that posture as well. You talked about my different roles at KidzMatter. I'm going to be at a booth too.
That's true.
So
if you have time, you think you have time?
I'm going to make time for
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that I'm biased against that, but I also see, and I get the buzz, and as I see people wandering around and so forth, and there's something so wonderful about having all these wonderful resource providers right there. And so many of them, you're talking to the leaders of these resource providers. You're talking to the people who develop the curriculum and so forth. And so I think there's something wonderful about that. And I'm excited about this year. So the last couple of years, where the exhibitors were because they had to be, they were kind of spread out at times or at halls and so forth. And this, from my understanding, Ryan, we're all going to be in one space.
One big room.
One big room. So that's going to I think it's going to just amp it up even more and make it even more fun and rewarding for people. But you got to come in that. You got to come. And some people I think they'll come. They know. They've already looked at the resource providers. Like I know who I want to go talk to. But even if you don't do that, just float around because it's amazing how many times you stumble across something like, I never knew that existed. I didn't realize I need it, but I really do.
Hey, it's Ryan jumping in here in the middle of this interview to ask you a question. Why do some kids misbehave and try to seek attention? You know, we all deal with these kind of kids in our church, right? Well, here's the thing. There may be some painful reasons behind their actions. So instead of asking, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? Maybe a better question is, tell me your story. In the book, Caring for Kids from Hard Places, How to Help Children and Teens with a Traumatic Past, Jane and David Schooler help foster parents, adoptive parents, educators, and student ministry staff care for kids with behavioral challenges. You'll get insights to help you understand what they share about their childhood, ways to create trauma-informed spaces, and how to facilitate a healing environment, with some additional tips for creating a sensory smart classroom. You can buy this book, Caring for Kids from Hard Places, at your favorite bookstore, or you can go to tyndale.life/caring to buy it now and get 20% off. Once again, that is tyndale.life/caring to buy this book now and save 20%. Go check out this brand new book that you're going to love, Caring for Kids from Hard Places. Oh, what are we on, Brian? Number
5.
That's right. The posture of connector. Talk to us about this.
It's another big one for KidzMatter Special. I think, Ryan, you and your people have done a great job of developing this aspect of KidzMatter, whether it be the social media, the Facebook group, the conferences and so forth, what you guys do, that you create this great culture, this great community of people. And so from all these different, geographic range and different types of different denominations and so forth, and all come together in one umbrella under this kids ministry banner.
Yeah.
And so I just love how, we had this opportunity to either continue friendships that we have developed or make new ones. I'm looking forward to meeting Jackie, our donut deliverer, for the first time in person, right? And so you just have these opportunities to meet people that maybe you've seen them posting and you've posted back and forth, or maybe you've known one another, and just have this great relationship. Again, I think this is so key because ministry can feel so lonely at times, especially for those kids ministry leaders who maybe they are one of the, they only have a small team, or maybe just one or two other staff members, or maybe they're the only female on a staff team and they feel kind of isolated because of that reason. And so this is a great time for us to connect with others. And again, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood.
Yeah. I love that. 2 more, Brian. Number 6
more.
this is one I love number 6 because this is one that you may not think about. I mean, you think going to a conference, I'm going to learn, I'm going to worship, I'm going to meet new friends, I'm going to discover new resources. But number 6, I love that you included it in the list, and that is come with the posture of a giver. Talk to us about that.
So, I mean, a lot of times we can come with this mindset that I'm going to receive everything, and we will receive a lot, maybe even mostly. That's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. All these that we've talked before require receiving. That's good. That's fitting. But don't miss out that also we can give. And this is, I'm including everybody under this, because I think there are people who are maybe listening and they're like, what do I have to give? I serve in a small church. I'm struggling to make ends meet. Or I just started in kids ministry. Even if I'm in a big church, I just started. I don't have the experience. What do I have to give? And you hear, people on the main stage, you hear people leading breakouts, and sometimes you think, I could never do that because I don't have anything to give. That's not true. We all have something to give. We all have experiences. We all have gifts and abilities and so forth. But here's the thing. Even if somebody's listening and like, Brian, I'm challenging you. You're wrong on this. I have nothing to give. I have nothing to offer. Yes, you do. You have the ability to give somebody else the ability to serve you and love on you and encourage you. Because, this idea of out-serving requires somebody to be served, right? So I think we all have something to give. I think that person who that's the only thing they have to give is an extreme minority if they exist. But I think always be ready. How can God use you in this context? It may be just a simple smile at somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what God is doing in that person's life. That simple smile
100%.
might be what they need,
Yeah.
and you just gave them something critical.
And that's so true. Yeah. So I love that, Brian. Finally, number 7. As you were talking about that, I was thinking about when Jesus said, "Give, and it will be given to you," right?
Yeah.
And then it goes on, and I'm drawing a blank, but something like, and the verse is slipping me.
To the measure that you give,
Yes,
you receive.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So you give a little bit, and that's how much you're going to get back. You choose, I'm going to give this much, and God's going to give you that much back.
And it's just that willingness, Ryan. It just,
Yes.
if you're just willing to give and give
Yes.
scandalously and abundantly,
Yes.
doesn't mean you necessarily will have a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And so you could come ready to give, and maybe you don't have but a chance or two. That doesn't mean you're only getting a small amount back. It's
Right.
it's that willingness to give. That's what God will bless.
100%. All right. Finally, Brian, before we talk about your new book, posture number 7, rester.
Yeah.
You're saying give yourself permission, although there's going to be a million things to see and do at the conference. You're saying give yourself permission to rest a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And it seems counterintuitive to all the other ones. And I think I even in the blog post said, this seems like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? You just give me 6 different postures. We're going to be busy. You put together a great schedule that's busy. We're going. But I think this is really important. What I would hate to see is somebody come to KidzMatter and leaving more tired than they came.
Yes.
And there's a physical component to this. A lot of what we've talked about, like that worship, is how we can spiritually rest, right? But I'm talking mostly a physical component here. And I think we need to understand, listen to your body, listen to the Holy Spirit. And if there's one morning the alarm goes off and it's a little bit too early, hit snooze. Might that mean you might miss a little bit of something? Yes, that might mean that, but that's okay. We're under grace. We're not under the law.
Yep.
We're not going to take attendance anywhere, are we?
Nope,
Are we, Ryan?
We are not.
No.
We are not.
So you won't get in trouble for being late. Not like at work sometimes in our church culture. You show up for worship late, you're going to get in trouble. That's not going to happen here. So rest, pull aside into a corner, sit down, just rest as needed. If that's what you need.
I love it. Those are 7 great postures. If you're watching or listening, you're not, boy, I wish I had that in one list form. Go to kidzmatter.com/blog. You will see Brian's blog post there with all of these typed out. If you're bringing your team, this would be something great to forward onto your team. Hey, let's all plan on showing up with these 7 postures. Forward it, print it off. Brian, thank you so much. Before we go, you have a brand new book. I know you've been working on, I feel like a year ago, you were telling me about this book that you were working on. And I remember thinking, wow, this is such an important topic that you're writing on. And here we are a year later, and we're just a few weeks away from being able to get our hands on it at the KidzMatter Conference, and you sharing it with the whole world a few weeks after that. Talk to us about the book.
Yeah, I actually signed the contract with InterVarsity Press last summer. It was
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's been pushing it beyond a year.
Yeah.
So it's called Family Discipleship That Works. And it's based on my PhD dissertation that I worked on, and just the research that I chased down in there. The title, I wrestled with our IVP friends, and because it sounds very glowing, and it's a strong promise. It's like, this is the family discipleship that works. And so, but it's a play on words because on 2 levels. One, my research discovered that really family discipleship has never really worked well here in America. That's how I start with that. You often hear this idea of, hey, parents today aren't discipling like they used to. When the first part's true, we're only about maybe 10% is the estimate, discipling in the home. But that last part is not true. That I chased down quote after quote that backs us through history, showing the same thing. We've never really done well with this. So that's the first angle of, hey, let's find something that works then. But the second one is at my proposed solution is, I think a lot of times we as parents don't know the goal for what we're doing. And I think the default goal, it's kind of like the postures we just talked about. The default posture is probably a learner. We have something default. in the home, the default posture is probably just information transfer. I just have to tell you what's in the Bible, tell you about Jesus, and a little bit better, maybe, salvation of the child, of course. But
Yeah.
then what? And
Mhm.
so the thesis of this book is that we want to help parents come alongside their kids and raise disciples of Jesus who act like Jesus.
Mm.
They live like Jesus. And that's where
Yeah.
the works comes into play, that we're trying to raise children who don't just know of Jesus, don't just love Jesus. They do that, of course, that's critical,
Yeah.
but live like Jesus,
I
act
love
like
that.
him. They work it out. They work their faith out in everyday living.
And isn't that what we want for our kids and our grandkids? I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, that they'll know the Lord and love the Lord and then serve him.
Exactly.
Um, and it can seem like a very overwhelming task, but I
Yeah.
love that you are breaking it down in this book in such a way that, um, hey, you are giving us some actionable strategies and some things that we can begin doing at home. And Brian, the book doesn't release until early October, but the publisher is going to have some copies at the KidzMatter Conference for people to purchase, correct?
Yeah, yeah. IVP will have they will be in the exhibition hall. And so
Hmm.
stop by and they will have that book along with some others, of course. I think they're gonna have a big banner of this
Oh,
book
fun.
behind them.
Good.
So that'll be the way to find them. But of course, you also have a tremendous app that shows you exactly where all of them
That's
are.
true.
So
They'll be able to find it. Well, super excited. I believe that God's going to use this book to really make a difference in the church and the lives of kids and families. Beth and I want to get behind it. We want to help you get the word out about it.
I appreciate
And
that.
yeah, super excited. Brian, thank you for your friendship and
Yeah.
for the influence that you are in this community and the encouragement that you are in this community. And we can't wait to see you in just a few weeks at the KidzMatter
That's
Conference.
right. That's right. Can't wait to see you and give you a hug, Brian.
Same here. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, man.